The morning of October 15, 1944, dawned cool and fresh when the crew of a B-17 Flying Fortress readied itself for one of World War II's most extraordinary survival tales. On the earliest morning of June 6, 1944, Navigator Lt. Ray LeDoux and his crew boarded their plane at their base in Nuthampstead, England, to make a bombing run to Cologne, Germany. No one had any idea what they were about to endure in what would be one of the greatest tests of their will and character. It began with all the hallmarks of a standard mission. Climbing into their B-17, they were now part of the enormous formation of bombers that was moving east towards Nazi Germany. Well, the crew was experienced, but they knew the dangers ahead of them. Cologne was fortified with thousands of anti-aircraft guns, and formidable German fighters were a persistent danger. When they neared their objective, the crucial railroad yards of Cologne, the sky darkened with black puffs of flak. They pressed on, under intense flak, heading toward their bombing run. In the nose compartment, Lieutenant LeDoux was in sync with Bombardier George Abbott in anticipation of the moment they would drop their bomb load. A second later, right after they had completed their bomb runs, an 88mm flak round smacked the nose of their B-17. It was a massive explosion. The plane's nose section blew off, killing Bombardier George Abbott immediately. Lieutenant LeDoux, only 3 feet behind Abbott, knocked him out and sent him into the firewall, but he survived. Lo and behold, when LeDoux came to, he was gazing at clear blue where the nose of a plane had been. At 27,000 feet above sea level, temperatures were well below zero, and hurricane-force winds screamed through the ripped-open fuselage. His maps had been blown away into the void, and all of his navigation instruments were shattered. It felt like the plane was doing a nosedive. Against the freezing temperatures and brutal chop, LeDoux made his way to the chilly cockpit. Crawling, pilot Larry DeLancey and co-pilot Phil Stallman were trying to fly the flightless plane. They were out of formation to avoid flying into other bombers and were dropping altitude quickly to reach air that they could breathe in since their oxygen system had been shot out. The situation was dire. Alone over enemy territory in a crippled plane. It wasn't just structure either. The nose was completely missing, which created not only structural issues but also a hellish wailing sound as the wind stripped through the distorted metal. With the bomb bay doors still left open, there were even greater drag and stability issues. They had lost a number of control systems. Half the crew were at sub-zero temperatures, and German fighters were constantly on the prowl for them. Descending down to 2,000 feet, it fought DeLancey to stay above water. Navigator LeDoux had to literally remember his way home. Most maps were gone, and the majority of the instruments destroyed. The crew was aware they needed to fly west, but being able to fly too close to German fighter bases was to fly into death. When they reached the English Channel, LeDoux started to see the sights he had seen many times before on his previous missions. He corrected the headings for DeLancey from memory, taking them straight back to base, with the B-17 repairs incomplete and only partially functional. Enemy soldiers on the approach heard sounds never before experienced. The battle-damaged B-17 emitted a horrific, banshee-like wail that echoed for miles. The final hurdle they would face would be landing. On the minimal instrumentation available and at greatly compromised aerodynamic performance, DeLancey would be landing almost by touch. The whole base waited in silence as the crumpled B-17 made its approach. As a result of DeLancey's remarkable airmanship, the latter was able to land the aeroplane. The sight of the B-17 finally coming to a halt was a sight for sore eyes for the ground crews. The whole nose piece appeared to be missing. Twisted metal rolled back like a sardine can. The bombardier's seat was annihilated. It was an act of aviation hypocrisy, a paradox that violated every law of aerodynamics to have that aircraft in such a condition that it had managed to gain up to 150 feet above the ground. While all but one of the 10-person crews survived, many were hurt. The crew all felt the loss of Bombardier George Abbott hard, but particularly Navigator LeDoux, who had flown in the nose section with Butter and missed the passing of his friend George had been an air cadet with him in Maple Creek. The crew managed to accomplish this incredible feat and, as a result, were all soon awarded several decorations. Pilot DeLancey received the Silver Star for what was described as a miracle of flying skill and ability, and Navigator LeDoux got the Distinguished Flying Cross for his astounding skill in navigating them back. Their epic survival was the stuff of legend in the 8th Air Force, and the images of their battered B-17 were a tribute to the almost impossible fortitude of the flying fortress itself, and the unmatched professionalism and bravery of its crews. However, the incident also showcased the amazing construction of the B-17, a plane that could take massive hits and still be able to fly. As an epilogue to this amazing story, Navigator Ray LeDoux named his son George Abbott LeDoux after his bombardier who died that day. Their story of flight was not only the story of survival against impossible odds, but also an eternal homage to the sacrifice and courage shown by every bomber crew who took to the skies against Nazi Germany. It is perhaps one of the most mind-boggling tales of aircrew survival in World War II history, and proves that man and machine can be wonderfully robust in the most dire of situations. It is a reminder of the talent, perseverance, and bravery of the men who flew in these perilous missions in service of liberty. We love telling these amazing tales of heroism and would love to have you along for the ride. Join novices and aficionados alike by becoming part of our growing family of history buffs right here on our channel. We can preserve the memory of these incredible stories of bravery and sacrifice.